believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Until the killing of black man, black woman's son is as important as the killing of white man, white mother's son. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. Oh, we who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Ashe. And we are here in the spirit of Dr. King, honoring his legacy and commitment to justice and inclusion and equity. And we understand that the great work is not over. And we are gathered here today to recognize and honor our duty and our responsibility as members of this community to make sure that we not only elect public officials that represent our interests and needs of our community, but also to hold them accountable. And so we welcome you here today on behalf of the Community Renewal Society, our board officers, staff, and congregational members and churches. We are so grateful that you have joined us to honor Dr. King's legacy by joining us for this forum. My name is Reverend Waltrina Middleton, and I serve as the Executive Director of CRS. And I am joined here by members of our board and members of our staff. You see many of them wearing the bright orange Community Renewal shirts. I want to acknowledge all of our staff, including those who aren't here. We have one who went into labor last night. And so we praise God for the new life that is being ushered into this world at this time. And so we want to begin honoring Creator God, honoring our ancestors. And so in the African tradition, we begin, and indigenous tradition, we begin by pouring libation. We understand that we are not the first people here. And so we also pause to honor those who were the first people of this land, who were stolen, who were murdered, and we understand that we are here upon their blood, their sweat, and tears. But before we can begin, it is the tradition to ask our elders for permission to begin, and so I ask the elders, do I have your permission to proceed? May I hear you? Thank you so much. And so now that we have received the permission of our elders, and for those who may not be familiar with libation, libation requires a few different elements. The soil, something that represents the earth. We also pour water. We pour cool water to invite our ancestors from the 4 directions, and we invite them to have a safe journey here and to be present with us. And we also affirm in unity with the word Ashe. If you know the word Amen, you know the word Ashe, which means I agree, or we are in agreement with one another. And so as we pour libation, we say Ashe collectively to show that we are one village, we are unified, and we are here together as one. And so I begin by honoring the first people of this land, Ashe. I begin by inviting our ancestors from the north, the south, the east, and the west to join us, and we pour cool water so that their journey may be good. Ashe, 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 Ashe. We recognize the great sacrifice of martyrs like Dr. Martin Luther King, like Malcolm X, and those who stood by them, like Betty Shabazz and Coretta Scott King. We honor their memory, Ashe. We understand that there are ancestors who crossed the Atlantic Ocean and the Great Ma'afa, many who chose not to continue that journey, and so they took it upon themselves to jump across that ship. And so we know that their remains are at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, and we shall never forget them, Ashe. We honor those who were stolen from us by police brutality and who were forced to become ancestors too soon. And so in the memory of those like Laquan McDonald, we say Ashe. Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Tamir Rice, and so many names, too many to call and unfortunate to call, and remember we say Ashe. We invite you to call upon the ancestors within your family. I know that we have members of our team who've lost loved ones recently, and so we want to honor all of our ancestors. You may lift up the names of your loved one. Ashe. For all of the names spoken and those that we hold in our hearts, lest we forget, we say Ashe. And as we move forward with this forum today, we thank God not only for the ancestors that have transitioned and have become a part of the great cloud of witnesses. We also honor the unborn for the ancestors that are yet to come, and we ask for their safe journey and for covering and protection. And just as our ancestors prayed for us, we pray for them. Ashe. And in whatever name that you lift up, Allah, Christ, Creator, God, we give thanks for protection, for covering, and for keeping us. And we ask for wisdom and understanding, for direction. And we ask this for those civic leaders that will take this office, that God will continue to be with them so that they may be able to lead with dignity, with integrity, and with the works and the commitment to be able to be honorable to the community that placed them in those positions. So we thank God for each of those servants that will come. And together we say, Ashe. May you leave here better than you came. This libation ceremony is concluded. Together with thanksgiving as one community and one voice, Ashe. We would like to thank the members of this congregation for being so gracious, St. Mark United Methodist Church, for welcoming us, and Reverend Devon Brown for opening their doors for us. These partnerships are essential for Community Renewal Society. Our mission is to eradicate racism and poverty, and we do this as a faith-based organization committed to social justice. We understand, particularly as a Christian organization, that a Christological view must include social justice, that there is no identification with Christ if there is no identification with love and justice and equity. And so we stand on those shoulders of that great martyr and social justice warrior, Jesus the Christ. And so we are also grateful for the many congregations, over 40 congregations across the state of Illinois that make up our membership. And so we'd like to welcome Reverend Brown to come forward, if he's still here. Oh, there he is. And to bring greetings from St. Mark. Thank you, Reverend Brown.
Amen. Greetings on behalf of the officers and members and clergy of St. Mark United Methodist Church. I bring you welcome. We celebrate the life of Martin Luther King Jr. and the legacy that lives today. And although the issues that existed in the 60s and 70s and beyond that we thought would be changed by civil rights legislation continue to exist today, there's a certain excitement that comes when I see a group of people who have gathered to continue to help bring King's vision into reality. So we're honored to be the host of this gathering. Candidates and others, you remain in our prayers. The restrooms are right outside those doors to my right, and there's a fellowship hall right next to that. I believe there'll be a repast following the program. So God bless you and welcome.
Thank you so much, Reverend Brown. We cannot do this work without each of you and with the partnership of our congregation, so we're so grateful, and we thank you for the hospitality of your staff. At this time, I'd like to introduce Karan Blair, who serves as our Director for Organizing and Policy with Community Renewal Society. Help me welcome Karan.
Thank you, Dr. Middleton. How are we feeling today? I didn't hear you. How are we feeling today? We feel I almost said no flash photography, but hey. I'm joking. Sometimes my sense of humor, goes over the room. So again, my name is Karan Blair. I am so happy to be doing this work and to be working in community. It matters a lot to me because the work of Community Renewal Renewal Society, it doesn't end, but it starts with our shared belief in a faith system. And as Dr. Middleton says, whatever you subscribe to, a thread that holds us all together is the deep potential that sits within all of us. And I love politics and I love elections because it is a time where all of us are focused on big questions about the kind of society, the kind of city, the kind of state we want to live in, and we get to take political action together. So I'm excited to be here, excited for the conversation. Before I start, I want to acknowledge our team. So if the folks from Community Renewal Society, Organizing and Policy, our finance team, our operations team, if you're in the room, stand up so the people can say hello to you. I want to acknowledge Dr. Middleton has already said hello, but I want to thank her for her leadership. Our board, I share all of that. But the Organizing and Policy team, it's okay, stand up one more time so folks can see you. They have worked really, really hard and are the embodiment of a small but mighty army. So thank you for that. All right, let me get to my prepared remarks. I went to seminary, and so, you give me a microphone and could be here all day. So again, thanks for being here. These are good and they are trying times, and we come into this space, into this sacred moment with lots of questions about the future of our city, the future of our state. And it is, while the moment is filled with challenges, it is also filled with possibilities. And the kind of conversation we're trying to have today is to name very clearly and honestly some of the challenges we face, but it is also about digging for and exposing possibilities, right? If you are here today as a person running for office, it is not an endorsement. It matters that we say that, but it is an invitation to be in dialogue and to be in conversation. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to ask interesting, challenging, hard questions. We're going to have opportunity for the folks in the audience to ask questions. It is all rooted in a spirit of community building and a vision of materializing what King called the beloved community. Does that make sense? Say amen if it does. All right. So the challenges, right? When we think about policing, when we think about taxes, when we think about housing, when we think about climate, they are many. The possibilities, though, is that everything that we have access to, everything that our eyes behold, is often a matter of public policy, however small, however large. And so the people who get to make public policy matter. And so we are here today to ask questions of folks around what are the possibilities they plan to unlock. And this forum is especially feels right to us because years ago, CRS and others came together to create what became the GAPA Coalition that merged and became ECPS. And because of the work of that coalition, we passed landmark legislation. And we are, yes. And so critical to that legislation is the formation of district councils. And so we are honored to be bringing folks who are running for district council to the table to have conversation about their vision of police accountability and police reform. So we want to applaud that, applaud the victory. And then we will have folks who are running for alderperson, alderman, we got to find a term for that. And they're going to be in conversation with organizers, people who are also building power in community to make change. So that's the format. And the person that we have today to moderate the conversation is a new friend, Ronaldo Hudson. I'm going to invite him to come on down. Yes. And Ronaldo has a powerful story. Hey, baby. When we were trying to figure out who could moderate the conversation, I don't think we could have found a better person. And he will tell you this, currently works as the Director of Education at the Illinois Prison Project, 37 years in the carceral system, 13 on death row, 17 with a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. And he will tell you he was not exonerated, he was liberated. And so is the embodiment of King's vision of justice, not just for the innocent, but for all of us. I learned that over dinner. So really happy to have Ronaldo facilitate the conversation, move us through this meaningful dialogue. If you are here and you are running for office, I want you to sort of wave your hand so we see you. And we're going to figure out how to move you over to this side so you can join the panel as Ronaldo facilitates. Would you put your hands together and make welcome Ronaldo Hudson, our facilitator? Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's real, like, I stand in the spirit of Dr. King, and I'm so grateful for the hospitality of this holy space, because I think it's important that we remember that the grace of God is not predicated on how good we are, but on how good God is. And so I love reminding people every chance I get, I was not exonerated. I was liberated, because there's a gospel that says if you turn from your wicked ways and your unrighteous thoughts, I will show you the sure mercies of David, and I will abundantly pardon you. Let me introduce y'all to a pardoned brother who was guilty but made righteous by Christ. Amen? So I don't want to talk about me today. I want to talk about these candidates. I want to move y'all. Come on, y'all, let's make this happen, because one of the things I've learned is that the time, people's time, is vitally important, and we want to find out if y'all playing with the community or if y'all committed to bringing the dream into fruition. And so when they say I was the right one to moderate this conversation, I'm telling y'all right now, don't play with me. Amen? Ooh, look at these beautiful people. Hey, who big old van is that out there? Yeah, move it to the back. Move it to the back. That's a beautiful van, brother. I want to, come on. I'm sorry. We're gonna, do y'all mind us sitting, y'all can sit in the anointed drum space, like, thank you for those drums. Whose coat is this? Over here? This your coat? All right. Let's grab some chairs. Woo, it's a lot of y'all running for office. Thank you, brother. We have already met. Don't start nothing with me, man. Thank you, everyone. We're going to give each of you, as we get you seated, 2 minutes to introduce yourselves. And I'm telling y'all, I am very respectful, but one of the reasons I'm here is to gently coach you along. And I want to ask you in advance, right, if you have a stump speech, save it for the stump, because this is a holy space and we want the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you holy people of God. I'm going to move over this way some so I can be out of the way. I don't want to be in anyone's, look at this favor. So can we start on this end? Would you introduce yourself? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Michelle Page. I'm running for the 12th District Police 12th District. I'm running for District Council for the 12th District. I was born and raised and lived all my life on Lake and Ashland, which is the 12th District. I lived, worked, and worshiped there. I was employed at the Women's Treatment Center for 13 years until its closing. I'm a member of First Baptist Congregational Church, where I serve on many auxiliaries there. I'm advisory member of Union Park Church. Union Park. And I'm a mother. I'm running because I want to. I have to. Not because I want to, because I have to. I have a son. And since I found out I was pregnant, I was afraid to have a black male, because I know all too well black males are treated in the city of Chicago. So I fought with Community Renewal Society to get the ECPS ordinance passed, and I'm continuing this work as a candidate for district council.
God gave me a strong voice, I'm telling y'all, so I wouldn't need a mic.
Buenas tardes. I am Marilyn Pagan Banks, and I am happy to be here this afternoon. I am running for 24th District Police Council in Rogers Park. So I think I might be the only North Sider up here. But we are a part of the Community Renewal Society and glad to be doing this work of love and justice. One of the reasons I'm running are those two beautiful children back there are my grandbabies, and they are 2 of 12. And I want them to be able to show up and live fully, authentically as their wonderful black selves and not have to worry about police violence or even someone else who a bullet was meant for someone else to hit them, right? So we are working to make sure that our children are safe, and there's no one who's going to do that better than the community. The community knows what it needs, and we just haven't spent enough time listening, and we have not spent enough resources investing in the community to be able to have those dreams and those ideas and those visions come to life. And so I am just excited about this work and about doing that. I've lived in that community for over 20 years now. I work as an executive director in the community for 20 years now, and I'm also an ordained pastor. And the work that I did for my doctorate was all about how do we accompany the community in this work the way that Christ did, pulling out the gifts of the community, not us trying to fix and blame and point fingers at the community, but to love on the community, because everything that the community needs, we already have. And so we just got to be willing to do the work.
Good afternoon, everyone. Buenas tardes a todos. My name is Erica Nanton, and I am actually not running for a doggone thing. I think I might be the only person on this panel who's not. I was like, am I in the right place? But no, I actually appreciate the fact that I was invited to speak on this panel. I am the community organizer for St. Sabina, but I actually have held elected office twice. I was elected to local school council. I served on that for a number of years, and then I was elected to local school council advisory board. I really believe that I did serve honorably, but I voluntarily decided to step down from those positions because I really felt like this was a season for my life to be in the trenches, and that I really, really needed to go back into the streets. And I know sometimes we see elected office from the organizing perspective as like a promotion or something, but I believe there is no greater place, and Dr. King showed us that. There is no greater place we can serve than in these streets, and I am happy to be here to help to balance out, and some of these are my colleagues, some of these people I fought in the streets with, so, you know, very worthy to be here running for office, but I think the community being at this table is important as well, so thank you guys for having me.
Good afternoon. My name is Desmond Yancey, and I'm running for 5th Ward Alderperson. The ward covers 5 communities: Kenwood, South Shore, Hyde Park, Greater Grand Crossing, and Woodlawn. I'm running as a longtime Chicagoan. I have my father of an 8-year-old son who was born in 2014. And I've spent about 20 years as a labor and community organizer and policy advocate. In 2015, I was trying to figure out what my next space would be. I'd worked in labor or as a labor organizer and worked in political space, and heard rumblings about a tape that was going to be circulating about a young man who was murdered by Chicago police. In that moment, I tried to figure out how I could be helpful and supportive. And so during a rough week in November of 2015, where there was a bunch of action, in the thick of things, I saw young people standing up. And I had conversations with several who, I'm Gen X, born in 1971, who looked at me and my friends and said, how did y'all let this continue to happen, right? And so in that moment, I made a decision, I made a pivot, and what that pivot was taking this pain and turning it into policy. And so in 2016, I co-founded the Grassroots Alliance for Police Accountability, along with a number of other organizations, including Community Renewal Society. So give it up for CRS. Not just hosting this event, but really living their values in a real and true way. That we set out to start asking the question is, what does public safety mean to you, right? How do we keep our community safe, and how do we hold police accountable? So after, 6 years or so, partnered with the Chicago Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression to form a new coalition called the Empowering Communities for Public Safety Coalition. In July of 21, we passed an ordinance that brings real and true civilian oversight to the Chicago Police Department. And because of that, I'm here, not only running for office, but supporting a number of brilliant and talented district council candidates, some of which are on this dais with us today. And I'm grateful not just to be here to serve God, but also do the right thing. So thank you.
Well, I greet you all. My name is Renita Q. Ward. I am seeking office for the 5th Ward alderperson. I want to say thank you to the St. Mark Parish for allowing us to be here today. I also want to applaud the Community Renewal Society for hosting this occasion on the King holiday. So I am here because I believe fundamentally that we are very tired of political drama and deadlock. We want to move forward, and we want to find a way to move forward together. I think that work is deeply embedded in what Community Renewal Society does, because they are sparked out on a season of implementation and accountability. I believe my leadership is all about implementation and accountability. I'm uniquely qualified for this position. I practice currently as an attorney. I do that for a hospital, so I do that in-house. I understand legislation. I understand making things come together. But I also do that pro bono through the Trinity United Church of Christ legal clinic. So I have a street eye view as to what people encounter day to day when different forms and documents come to their house that they may or may not understand, when they have to go to different boards and they have to advocate for themselves and they want help. I've spent countless hours making myself available so that for free or on a sliding fee scale that we can get people the help that they need. So I have a street level view as to what people are going through, and when you pull different levers, what happens in their life. But that's not all. I'm also a member of the clergy. So there again, I've journeyed with people to funeral homes. I've attended funerals of friends and colleagues. Have they buried children or spouses or loved ones that we know have died way too soon? And so I do believe I have the skill set to go down to City Hall and represent the people of the 5th Ward. That's from 51st to 71st primarily. There's a little bit down there by 75th at Grand Crossing, over from South Shore to Cottage Grove. If you know someone in that area, I take this opportunity to ask you to ask them to vote for me. If you live in that area, I want you to know that I want to listen to you, respond to you, and work with you to move our city forward together. Together. When the fighting's over, and I'm a military child, so believe me, I believe in strategic fighting. But when the fighting is over, we need to be able to move forward together. I'm Renita Q. Ward, and I thank you, and I look forward to this conversation.
Come on, clap it up. That's a beautiful speech. My name is William Hall, and in addition to our gratitude for Pastor Brown, as a pastor myself, coming in on a Monday especially and making sure that everything is in place is a lot for a pastor. I don't know where he is, but can we clap our hands for Pastor Brown? That's a lot. The heat, the light, the gas. And then secondly, to the Community Renewal Society that has been consistent for years in making sure that we renew ourselves and our minds and our work. So clap your hands for Waltrina Middleton. Reverend Middleton does a great job, and her entire team. My name, again, is William Hall, and I've been living in this community for 38 years, and I'm only 38 years old. And as long as I can remember, my father made sure that we did two things. Number one, defend the poor and serve the poor, even though we were poor ourselves. And that same fight and that same energy and that same wisdom is the reason why I'm running, because secondly, our community has changed. I'm not just talking about Chatham, where we are, but Inglewood, Park Manor, the entire gamut of neighborhoods no longer are the same. Kids can't even ride a bike no more. If you drive down the street or even go right there, that park has new swings, but the baseball diamonds are not even used. And so I'm witnessing a community that I still live in, the same block, 38 years, that's no longer the same. So I have a choice. I can either continue to convene and have meetings, to have more meetings, or I could sit at the table and do what I can with what I got to make this community better. And so it is personal. It's the same voice of Ms. Mamie Teal, who was my neighbor, Ms. Margaret Burroughs, who painted the picture of Africa that made me want to be something in life. And that something is to serve. And so I'm here just to share a few ideas on how to serve, to not only renew a community, but to stabilize a community. Because without renewal in a community, it will stay destabilized. And so my name is William Hall. I'm looking forward to listening to everybody as well. So one more time, clap it up for everybody. Everybody is somebody.
Good afternoon, family. My name is Eric Russell. I'm the executive director of the Tree of Life Justice League. I'm a national police accountability advocate. We advocate for families whose loved ones have been brutalized, tortured, and murdered by police. One thing, I live in Tooley Park. One thing that I can share with you, at the Tree of Life Justice League, we provided the plaintiffs for the Campbell class action lawsuit, which ultimately helped facilitate the consent decree against the Chicago police. And we worked very diligently. We stood in solidarity with GAPA, and as a member of CPAC and now the Chicago Alliance. Also, by the way, Reverend Brown, my mother-in-law, Constance Palmer, is a member of this church, and my daughter was confirmed here. What you will get from me, I'm sorry, I'm an activist, I don't need the mic. What you will get from me is a view of a soldier from the front line. The reason that I'm here is out of obedience. I don't consider myself, I'm running for the 6th District Police Council. That primarily includes Brainerd, West Chatham, and Auburn Gresham. I wish I had good news to report. But as of right now, is that there is a hunch. And those of us that have been kissed by the sun, the police have put targets on our children's back. As a district councilman, my job will be to do my part to help usher in a new day of police reform, transparency, and accountability. Because we're on holy ground, and I can tell you that we have enemies as a people that will deny our children their God-given right to pick their desired fruit from the tree of life. So my mission is just to be a servant. We want to hold the police accountable. And what we want to tell them is that we don't support lawlessness in Auburn Gresham. But what we demand is that the police must uphold the law while they enforce the law. And we demand that they treat us with a certain amount of dignity and respect. We will address the other issues about violence. I will say to my brothers is that I will not engage in victim shaming and community blaming. I would ask my brothers to be your brother's keeper, not his executioner. And we will move from there. Brothers and sisters, we have some racist, road killer cops that have put targets on our back. And that's how we got to this ground-breaking ordinance, because they were killing our women and children with impunity. And as a candidate, and like I said, I don't consider myself to be a politician. I know this has been elected office. What I'm here is that I consider my civic duty, my civic responsibility to serve my neighbors in the 6th District. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Anthony David Bryant. I am a lifelong organizer. I've been organizing since I was 14. I just turned 29 in December 7th, so I've been organizing more than half my life. I know I may look older than I am, right? But when I was young, I had a role model, a mentor of mine come to me and told me, like, I could either be a menace to society or a pillar to my community. And when he challenged me to be a pillar to my community, I've been running with that ever since. I've done community organizing work with the Workers Center for Racial Justice, Parole, Illinois, NAACP, Southside Branch, Poor People's Campaign, and a whole bunch of other places I probably can't remember because I'm too old to remember it. Right now, I work with Metropolitan Family Services and the Government Affairs Department, pushing for violence prevention, workforce development, domestic violence prevention, as well as early childhood and behavioral health. I'm not running for office because I think I would be a good politician or something like that. I'm running because a few fellow organizers, as well as Frank Chapman, had volunteered me to run for office just because the work I've been doing all my life has been community-oriented. So I'm running for office to continue having the community at the decision-making table when it comes to what our police are focusing on, what their policy are, as well as their practices. So I look forward to, as William Hall said, I look forward to hearing from everyone here, as well as, I don't know if we're allowed to receive questions, but I would love to receive questions from you all. So thank you all for having us.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Boykin. I'm running for member of the 6th District Police Council. I'm from the west side of Chicago. I was born in South Lawndale, grew up in South Lawndale. I've lived all over the south side of the city, but been living here in at 75th and Eberhard since like 2010, so about 12 years. I'm a musician, I'm an educator, taught in CPS schools, taught at Roosevelt University, taught children through Sabo Leadership Academy, and I've also been a high school counselor through the BAM program, counseling high school boys, Corliss High School, Finger High School. Just doing that, I've dealt a lot with the demographic that's most likely to interact with the police, our young black men. I came to run for this position. I'm not an activist, not a politician, and it was just a call to do it. You know, I've always felt a call to serve my community, even as a musician. That's why I've always taught music. I've performed, you know, all over the city, all over the country. I've played international jazz festivals, Moscow, Paris, even played in Africa. But I've always felt, you know, a call to serve my community. So I've always worked in the community. And in hearing about the ordinance and the work that they were doing, and then seeing that in the 6th Ward, there was nobody stepping up and running for the position. And at the time, currently, there's 3 people elected to be elected in each police district. And I think, do we still have 2 or do we have 3 now? We have 2, and we managed to get a write-in candidate. But when I first heard about it, there were not enough people. So I just decided to step up and, as he said, be a soldier and be of service to my civic duty. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm Deanna McGill. I grew up in the Roseland community. I'm the Communications and Community Outreach Manager for Strengthening Chicago's Youth, which is a violence prevention collaborative here in the city, and it's convened by Ann and Robert H. Lurie Children's Hospital, Chicago. I've spent the last 4 years in that work trying to rally the city, stakeholders, everyone we can get our hands on around a public health approach to violence prevention, right? Going for those root causes, right? And keep that in mind, because that comes back in a moment. Before working there, I worked at the Illinois Council Against Handgun Violence. I ran the education programs. I worked with youth across the state, but a lot in the city, working with amplifying their voices around gun violence, issues of advocacy, activism, trying to create young activists in our communities who could work really hard to prevent violence in the various facets that we see it. Before that, I was a teacher. I taught for 2 years in Back of the Yards, Richards Career Academy. I taught for 2 years in Alaska in a very small town. Before that, I spent 9 years in the U.S. Army. And I'm going to just very quickly, I appreciate the establishment of honesty that started this whole thing. So I'm going to tell you the reason that I'm running that is not on my website. Just the last couple years, we're constantly talking about the city that we want to see. But to get the city we want to see, we need people who are willing to create that city, people with a real sense of justice, who think about more than just downtown, who want to invest in our communities. I grew up in Roseland. I've lived in Woodlawn. I now live in Inglewood, disinvested communities. Coincidentally, I live in a community that has the shortest lifespan in the city. I work in a community with the longest lifespan in the city, which is Streeterville. So I see both ends of that coin, and I know we need somebody who's going to treat Inglewood, treat Woodlawn, treat Roseland like they treat Streeterville. So I went to people and I say, hey, because I come across a lot of great people. I said, yo, you should run for office. You should run for alderman. You'd be a great mayor. You do this. And they all said no because we're afraid, right? Because we know what the system does to good people once they try to get into office. And so one day, someone called me. They said, you've been following this ECPS thing. I said, absolutely, blah, 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 blah. They said, you should run. And my initial reaction was, and I hung my head in shame the minute it came out of my mouth. I said, no one's ever approached me with that question, and my reaction was no. And I went home, I thought about it, and the next day I told everyone who would listen to me, I'm running for office. That's it. Because I want to be that example. And anyone who knows me, and I see familiar faces, you know that when I win, he definitely gonna win. He definitely can win. You know what I'm saying? I am the least likely person to ever run for office. But I do also bring unique skills. I've worked the last 10 years in community engagement, youth engagement, and violence prevention on both the street level and also as well in the medical research level. And that's why I'm running, because I just want to be a part of that change. I'm so excited to be a part of this, and it's also amazing to be up here with such unique and exquisite minds. And I'm just humbled to be here. So that's me.
Thank you, brother. Hey, man, when I looked at you, man, I promise you, and first of all, I say this in love and respect, and I honor you. But when you start talking and revealing your brain, I was like, I love black brilliance, and I love the fact that we get stereotyped, right? And I'm just saying this, so they probably going to get me, but they really can't because I can run pretty faster than I look. But I just want to say to you, thank you, man. Thank you for being an example of excellence. And I mean that for all of you all. Like, this is a beautiful opportunity just to remind us that we are a powerful, beautiful people, and we have such power among us. So I'm excited. He reminded me of me, but like, listen, I don't need the mic. But I was like, give me my mic. But listen, no, real talk, man, thank you. And I mean this, but I really want to start with the organizers. Who are the two organizers up here, right? Because I want to start the conversation, because I do realize that time is really, really running, and some of us are a little long-winded. I ain't looking at nobody in particular, right? But I really want to ask you a question to start this conversation, because I think it's really, well, technology, I have to say this, you all, like 2 years and trying to catch up with technology is a trip, right? But I'm so grateful that God gave me a brain to catch on fast. Amen? So to the organizers, I want to ask this question that I think is really important. How do you see the city of Chicago living up to or not living up to the dream of Dr. King? Here you go.
Appreciate you. Whew. Well, one of the ways that I think the city of Chicago is trying to live up to that legacy is some of the people you see sitting on this panel here today. So I do want to acknowledge that many of us, who do this work, we are standing on the legacy of people like Dr. King, but not just Dr. King, people like Fannie Lou Hamer, people like Sojourner Truth, people like Harriet Tubman, people that are, women that don't get mentioned often, and other folks that do not get mentioned often. So that is why many of us even do what we do today. So I'll say that. Now, let's get to it. How is Chicago not living up to that? as I listen to everyone here speak, and this is just something I want to say to all the candidates, just everybody running, right? I believe that from hearing you all have really good reasons for wanting to be here and wanting to do this. And I myself have been on the same position you're in, running for office, having to tell people why it should be me and things like that. I've been in that position. But I will tell you this, don't try to fit in. Don't come up here trying to look like you're supposed to get elected. Don't come up in here trying to talk like you're supposed to get elected. Do not do it. And the reason I say that is because it is time for us, the people, the voters also, when we hear a candidate speak, and as candidates, when we speak, it's time for us to start listening to those who are so obsessed with how we need to change the system that they almost forget to talk about themselves. That's what we need, and that's what we should be looking for as voters, and that's who we should be striving to be as candidates. Because there is too many structural problems that even with the best of intentions and the best spirit, heart, and mind you might have, if that system don't change and you get in there, you are going to become a cog in the machine that had a great speech to begin with, but now you have taken the wheels of a train that's running off the tracks.
You're not alone up. Is it another organizer up here? Let's pass that mic, please. Community organizer. Let us know who you be.
All right, so again, my name is Desmond Yancey, longtime Chicagoan. My uncle was a pastor here from 1952 to 1961, so this is kind of like home. But to Erica's point, you know, Dr. King marched in Marquette Park in 1966. And what he said was he saw more hate and racism in the North in Chicago than he did in Birmingham, Alabama. And so if we ask what Chicago is, today we still have redlining, but it's not called that. But black people can't buy houses in Bridgeport, right? We just got a civilian oversight body for the Chicago Police Department, which was called for when Dr. King was here in '66, in the Kerner Report in the late '60s. The Police Accountability Task Force in 2015, which was chaired by then citizen Lori Lightfoot. And so we, in this moment, are fighting against a structure and a system in which racism is entrenched. But we do win, and we do win when we elect people who not only share our values, but actually get down, roll their sleeves up, and do the work. And so to Erica's point, you know, there are folks on this stage, many folks that are not, some that are organizing right now in this moment, because we do deserve a better city. And so we've got a city council that's gonna have a minimum of 15 new seats, by some estimates as much as 28. And you know, we have an opportunity to really have a strong council, weak mayor, so that we can win more money for early childhood education, so that we can win more money for programs for seniors and people with disabilities, and we can hold up and lift up our young people so that they don't fall victim to the system that was created to ensnare them in the first place.
Thank you.
Thank you. Renita Ward, I actually agree with everything that has been said. I'll share, I have done some work with the Justice Watch team out of Trinity United Church of Christ, and I see several members from that team that meets regularly. I see a deacon in the back, Deacon Darcy. I see Kevin Tyson sitting here. I see Minister Darrell Brown, and so I understand very deeply what it means. We worked on the fair tax. That didn't pass, but we worked on it anyway. And we worked on it because we recognize there are structural issues. You may be saying, what's the fair tax? There's a flat tax here. No matter what you make in your range of pay, you get taxed at the same rate. And so we spent many hours and days figuring out how it is that we present that information, just like the cash bail, no cash bail, just like the police district. You spend many hours not just addressing the problem, but finding ways to distill it so that people actually know what you're talking about, and so that they get mobilized to go to the ballot box or to actually call their representatives. And so part of my candidacy is about being able to do both and. I think it's important to be able to go down and to protest and to advocate and to agitate, But I think it's vitally important to have somebody who's going to go into City Hall for you, go into a boardroom for you, go into a courtroom for you, and understand the different cogs of the system and how they could potentially be removed or dismantled. So you're either going into the system, you're agitating the system, or you're taking it apart. And so when you talk about those things, the people who are actually hurting, but also the people who give the jobs and make the decisions and cut the checks, I think it's behooving upon us to find a way to get in there and do both and I am a person who is committed to doing that. So I thank you very much, and I'll pass the mic to one of our other spirited organizers.
Well, let me
Go ahead.
let me
You got
go.
something for me?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get to, pass that mic down. I really want to get to, because I clearly know you running, right? And I clearly hear your history. But what I'm not hearing, and with all due respect, what I'm not hearing is the question of what is working and what's not working. Because I can understand mechanisms. I was in the Illinois Department of Health for 37 years, and I know systems and institutions and how we get in those spaces, and I love what you said about don't become that, right? And I also understand the importance of education and knowing what to do in the moments. And so I thank you for the work you do, and I want to talk to you about some of that as well. Sidebar. But I'm saying this to say to you all, and I really would ask you all to really focus in on the people want to know not what we already know, what's wrong. What are you going to do? Like, and I really want people to begin to lock in for us and tell me something uniquely about you that I am fearfully and wonderfully made by God. That's the whole room. But when I walk into the room with these people, I'm going to do X. So I really just want to really get people to lock in on why we're here, right? Because y'all beautiful and they took a lot of pictures, but we want some answers. Amen? All right, so that being said, I'm sorry, who was the mic?
Me.
Come on, sis.
So again, I'm on the north side, and so I see the disparities all the time, right? And so I think one of the things that, and the question around the dream that we're still trying to make a reality is around economic justice. And so for those of us who are working with the Poor People's Campaign, I'm running out of breath. Poor People's Campaign and other things, realize that in order to begin to crack at that issue of white supremacy and racism, we have to look at the economic structure as well in order to bring the community together. Because when poor folks come together, no matter who they are, and Dr. King talked about that, and I believe that that's what got him killed, is because he started getting in people's pockets and trying to align people in some new and very challenging ways. That is what's going to be able to change our community. We have to stop making it a them problem and our problem. When we talk about economic justice and
Slow
poverty,
down, you're moving fast for me. Hold
I know,
on.
that's the Puerto Rican in me. Sorry.
Okay, I'm gonna roll with you, but I want you to would you please bear with me a second? Here's the question, right? How does King Vision, right? How does King Vision of beloved community inform how you see the role?
Okay, I hadn't heard that question
Okay,
yet.
well, I want to move. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I want to move this along because I'm kind of got stuck in. And I take full ownership. Let me humbly ask y'all forgiveness. Mm-hmm. Amen.
Amen.
But I want to move us along because we do have a limited amount of time. So I want to move this to those that are running to the district for the district councils, right? Mm-hmm. This is the question. How does King Vision of beloved community inform how you see the role? And what do you plan to do?
So the role has to be that you center the people, what they need, and you allow them to begin to inform what needs to happen in community, and let them, and find ways for them to show up and show their power. And it's not about giving them a voice. People have voice already. We just need to get rid of the structures that are going to silence them. And so, for example, in my community, that looks like bringing people together who don't normally come together to talk about what we have in common. We have in common that we don't want any of our children to get killed. I don't care where you come from, where you were born, you do not want to bury your child, right? One of the ways we were able to push, an example I can give, one of the ways we were able to push affordable housing in Winnetka and talk about that was to be able to hear that no matter where you are, you want to be able to afford your mortgage or your rent, right? And so there were people who were working there who couldn't afford to live there, right? And so we made that happen. So it's about making sure that we have a lot in common. Nobody wants to bury their children. Let's stop talking about the ways in which we're pointing fingers and begin about the solutions to keep our children alive.
All right, thank you. Come on, let me hear from one of y'all over here. Come on, brother.
When I think about, Dr. King once said that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. When you hear us march and protest in our quest for justice, we are crying justice for our dead because they can no longer speak, because they were murdered by police. And so what happens is that when I was shared that our cause is just, our cause is a righteous cause. What we're asking, what I will do as a police accountability council member is I helped spearhead the incarceration of Laquan McDonald. A white cop had not been held accountable for 50 years. We spearheaded the conviction of Law Hauser. We must concern ourselves with the police new contract as it relates to transparency. How is it when you make a complaint against a police officer, he gets to know who you are, but you don't get to know who he is. And he has 48 hours to change his mind. We must concern ourselves with the militarization of the police. They will convince us that now they're bringing...
Can I ask you to speak to the mic? They need you on the mic.
Not on the bullhorn, but I'll try the mic. Now we must concern ourselves with the militarization of the police. They are now telling us that they're bringing knives to gunfights. They patrol black and brown communities like we're enemy combatants, like we're refugees. So when we talk about transparency, accountability, that's what I will bring to the 6th District. Because I am tired, listen, some of these road cops, we got to get rid of this code of silence. We must drain the swamp of some of these bad cops. And I'll say it unapologetically, is that there must become a time where the families of these road cops should be grieving like so many black and brown people. We will wait for them to wait on a call from the governor, from a stay of execution. Some of them should be playing basketball in Pelican Bay.
Dude, thank you. I want to pass it to you, but I want to, and I'm going to do this because I think it's important. I think it's so easy. I don't think it's no one in this space that would have a problem with dealing with road cops. But I want to give a little caveat. I was a convicted man. I was convicted of a crime I committed. And what I want to know is that when you talk about police accountability and how they deal with me, is justice solely for those that we can easily see that they should receive it, right? Stay with me 1 second. Pardon me. Well, I know about restorative justice. My question, and I want to really give a caveat of this. How do you, and I want to move it a little bit, like how do you in your role, right, see accountability with respect to how you deal with not just the innocent, who we shouldn't have to struggle with, but how do you see your role in how they deal with those that are guilty in our community that these same people are patrolling?
Thank you for the hard question. Our role is about accountability and restorative justice. To answer back your beloved community, you have to be in the community. You have to be from the community. I don't want to offend I hope this ain't recorded, but it is. I know. But you have people running for office for selfish reasons. If you're not from the community, if the community haven't sent you, why are you running for this office? If you're not building community, why are you running for office? So our role is to build community. You have people running for office that don't even know the community organizations and centers in their district or ward. Like, it's important for you to get and build relationships with these communities and organizations. Now, as it deals with the people who are not innocent, right? I live in Woodlawn. There's a lot of displaced people with mental health issues, drug abusers, and things like that. I am not a believer of over-policing and mass incarceration. That's my perspective. And I understand there's people in my community that's like still have trust and still have belief in the police in the 3rd District, and that's okay. I say that because we have to build community to hold each other accountable. When you don't have community, when you don't know your neighbor, when you don't know the youth, right, there's a problem. You know, I know sometimes we may blame the youth for their violent acts, but when the last time have you all mentored youth that's outside your family and friends? Right? So some of the work that we need to do within this role, as well as start it right now, if you ain't doing it right now, start it, of build relationships with these people. Talk to people that's out in the streets. Talk to people that's just wandering around. Talk to people that's tripping, right? They're not overdosing, but they're tripping out in the streets. You know, the people that may be leaning a little bit, go talk to those people. Go see how they're doing. See what their names are. And I say that because you got me riled up, Renardo. And a lot of my work, my life has been community-oriented. I'm broke, you know, financially, not spiritually or mentally, because I give so much to the community. And you have to care about the community. You have to care about people that you're not going to get something in return for. So I just challenge, I just put that out there, right? I'm not challenging anyone specific. I just put it out there in the universe. So thank you, Renardo. I hope I answer your question.
Well, you have to answer for them. They'll let you know at the polls. Hey, brother.
How you doing, brother?
Respond to that question.
The question about how you deal with how criminals in your community.
Well, not just
basically.
I added that, but let me take you
Okay.
back to where it should be. I want you to answer a simple question, though. Pardon me because I think it's important that if you're going to be in that room with them people, then you need to be in our spirit. And you need to be able to be, in my humble opinion, the person that we can trust that will ask those hard questions and push the narrative. And so how do you deal with that? I'm sorry, thank you. How do you make sure that as you're in that space, if you're elected to that position, how do you look at, right, accountability, police accountability as it applies to those that are guilty? Because I think that one of the things that is continually happening is that we put those cases up that anyone would support. Oh my God, right? Don't nobody want to see their child. But what about the guy or the woman that you know, like little Nook them, little Ice Pick, right? You know what I'm saying? That need, right? That need somebody going and say, okay, how are they treating him? Did they, you know what I mean? What is really, did he really confess? Or did he, even though we know he did it, he still did it. Right. I'm saying it's real stuff, and our community are dealing with this real stuff. Come on.
Right. First, let me just clarify about the actual role, the actual position that we run it for, and our actual duties and day-to-day. We're basically like a liaison between the people in the community and the police commission. Over the police council, there's a commission. It'll be a board, 14 people. They will be more so the people that are in the room that you're talking about with the police, with the commander, with the superintendent, with the mayor. They will be there. We will be in the community with the people and delivering the message from the people to the commission when they go to that room. You know, beyond them hearing it when the people out in the streets and everything, we'll be officially giving it to them in writing and everything else. But to your question of, so it's not so much a question like, what is it that I do specifically in terms of it's more so a question of, I guess it'll be like, you know, just what's my perspective, what's my opinion, how do I feel about the situation of a so-called like known criminal being treated unfairly by the police. Do they get the same respect, attention, treatment? Absolutely, yes, 100%. The job is to hold the police accountable to the policies and procedures that we lay out for them to follow. And so if they violate that in any way against anybody, against a known murderer who's seen murdering somebody, if they then in turn murder him unlawfully, they still to be held accountable, to answer your question.
Thank you.
Okay, so you have to excuse, I speak very plainly. Locking up people and throwing away the key don't work. Period. That's a clear statement. Now, my thought is this. In my role as a district counselor, and I'll challenge this of every single district council candidate, we have a perfect opportunity to go to the police commander and tell him to him or her face, locking up people and throwing away the key don't work. That's what you've been doing for the last 20 years. That's been a thought of this city. Guess what? Not the safest city in America, not the safest country in the world. So now, what other ideas do you have? And that's the perfect opportunity right in that moment. Because if they don't have ideas, I believe every district council should push ideas, right? For alternatives. We may not know what those alternatives are, but we know what those alternatives are, right? We know there are tons of programs that are being done in other cities, whether it's in Denver, Minnesota, even in other countries. There are programs being done where people are, because just taking people from our community, throwing them in jail, what happens? In 10 years, they come back with no skills, they've been hardened, and then where they gonna go? They're gonna come back to our community. It decimates communities. It takes people out. It disenfranchises us. I mean, we all know. You all know. So we have to come up with better ideas, right? So part of the role is to develop restorative justice, right? But we have to have real conversations about what that means, right? And then in the midst of that, tackling the root causes, jobs, health care, mental and physical, schools, right? You remember when they closed all the schools? They closed the schools, they closed the mental health facilities. You could draw circles around those things and how much gun violence was happening. Most gun violence, closed schools, mental health facilities, happen to only be about 3 or 4 circles. We need new ideas. And for me, I want to push idea. I know Commander Hill, we've had a very brief conversation, and he knows when I come to him, the first thing I want to do is go over to Austin. Because if you guys don't know Build Inc., they are doing amazing work over there around restorative justice. They have a whole center they're building. We need to just go over there and see what they're doing, and not steal it, but we need to just borrow that idea, build our center. They have a restorative justice action team that's already together, restorative justice committee, programs, circles. We just need to go and borrow our neighbors' good work and bring it back to Inglewood, 7th Police District, right? So that's what I want to do. I just want to push so we can start to reimagine. You hear this reimagining public safety, but we really need to talk about what that means. And it's not taking people off the streets, locking them up, bringing them back 10 years later and going, good luck, sir, and then telling them that they can't vote to boot.
Thank you. I do want to share and make room for the candidates running for the alderman.
Thank you.
I'm right, brother.
You feel me?
You know what?
You feel me?
I do, brother, because...
The whole time.
Okay, but hold still. Because the one thing we need from our aldermen,
First of all, we need to laugh, because everything got deep real quick.
Let's laugh. Ha-ha. But I have a question for you, potential. Is that your van? I keep asking that question.
Yeah, that is my van.
He got the biggest blue van and parked it in front of the building, right? So I don't think you even need to introduce yourself. But
they take up signs around here.
I follow optics, brother. That's real, right? Your brilliance is clear. But I'm curious if you would start this question. What should people know, like work you plan to do or make Chicago more like the beloved community that Dr. King dreamed of? What specifics, what things if you are elected, to be more specific, right? If you are elected, what is it? What agenda that you have that you're going to push in the city council? Day one, you show up.
So, to be honest with you, number one, public safety, right? This entire ward, there's 5 neighborhoods. We spent over $1 billion on public safety, but nobody's safe. We spent over the last 10 years over $5 billion to tell cops to behave. That's over $6 billion in a city where 20% of the kids that go to school are homeless. Something's wrong with that. So at the end of the day, treatment not trauma is a buzzword. You say it, everybody gets excited about it, but similar to today, right? We use Dr. King's name, his image, his likeness, but at the end of the day, he had a dream, and everybody gets excited about it. But if we work the dream, then we would not be living in a nightmare. Who's not sitting at the table is day one's agenda. And number one, who's not sitting at the table is the poor and the unhoused. Matter of fact, the mayor told people don't come to work. Well, we had a chance to decrease the population of people that are sitting on the viaducts. That's a problem. So who's not at the table, number one? Number two, how do we make economic parity? The city ain't broke, it's people that are stingy. If we spending all this money to have Chicago to be the tourist spot to go, I don't see them taking tours in this neighborhood. I don't see them taking tours in Inglewood. I don't see them taking tours in Roseland. I don't see them taking tours in other parts of Chicago. So we know how to make the city look cute for those who spend coins downtown. So who's not at the table is the unhoused. Who's not at the table are those who have mental challenges. How is it that Howard Brown workers are on strike? 63rd Street before you get to Houston, that mental facility houses files for 5 wards. So at the end of the day, who's not at the table are working families, right? And then last but not least, Dr. King would make sure that all of us have a voice at the table. Not no little I, no, not little big T, all of that good stuff. Everybody. And so one of the dangers that we have is that we're witnessing a dictatorship. This is a dictatorship. The light is out and we're stepping foot in the wrong direction. So it's a dictatorship, very Trump-like-ish. And so what we need to figure out is how do we convene conversations with the people who fund this city? We pay for this city, but we don't get served in this city, nor protected in this city, nor do aldermen give us the services that we need. So we need a collective work and responsibility. I think we just left Kwanzaa model in which everybody is collectively working together to be responsible about how we lead together, love together, and build together, and not get dictated by somebody who has a vision that is excluded from the poor, the unhoused, the mentally challenged, and the working families. God bless.
Thank you, brother. All right.
I'm glad we're in the church. We can say amen.
Amen.
To answer, and thank you, Brother Ronaldo, for the conversation and the question and facilitating a very dynamic conversation. I think your presence here is one of the things that we do well in the beloved community and can stand to do better of, and that is welcoming returning citizens, not a criminal, not someone who deserves to be cast away, but a returning brother or sister. Specifically, and we just heard the treatment, not trauma. Specifically, day one, when I come into office representing, I have heard, and I want to make sure that that is translated into real policies. I really think it's apropos that we're in a church, because a pastor, more than anybody, can tell you all the different things that actually walk into a door when you're trying to attend to your community. Some of it is Cousin Ink, who they want him to be locked up because he's threatening his family. Some of it is Cousin Nene, because Cousin Nene has a little bit off and needs a little bit extra attention. One of them needs to have mental health care. One of them may need some restorative justice and some rehabilitation. I think it's behooving upon us as a community, and day one I would like to facilitate that, figuring out which direction goes where. When I clerked over at the criminal courthouse for Judge Martin, I understand that they give out real sentences that send people to jail or to prison, and they are gone out of their community and their family. I understand that personally, and I understand that communally. When I was a chaplain intern, I went into the jailhouse to pray with people as they were being released or as they were coming in, and a lot of those people looked like us. So I understand that our community is suffering the most from mass incarceration, But one of the things I want to applaud us for and draw our attention to that Dr. King taught us is that only love can drive out hate and only light can drive out darkness. And I actually think Dr. King would be proud, Reverend Brown, to come in here today and see the diversity of this conversation. It's old people in here, it's young people in here. It's people of all races, sexual orientation, and identification. So as a representative on City Hall, first things first, I'd be able to see you. I actually see you. I'm sitting up here and I'm looking at you. I would be able to listen to you, respond to your needs, advocate for you, and speak on your behalf. And so when you challenge me, at least I heard a challenge, be real. We want to trust you. I intend to lead with integrity, with independence, and be a voice for the people, with the people, so that we can move forward, not separately, not individually, because we got to go forward, y'all, forward together. So I wanted to respond to you. That was directly for you. Thank you so much.
Can I ask really quickly, thank you, for that, because that is what I'm looking for. I think the community want to know that we have access when you get in that room and that your door is not locked once you get in the room. So thank you. Because y'all heard her say that, right? The door ain't locked. We showing up. Go ahead, brother.
All right. Again, Desmond Yancey, running for 5th Ward Alderperson. My parents taught me a long time ago that we are more important than me, which means that for me it meant that I have to make individual sacrifice so that the world could be a better place. I've lived that way for 20 years as a community organizer and advocate. I'm currently the Senior Director of Organizing and Advocacy at Inner City Muslim Action Network, where we work on dismantling systems, right? We want to provide healthy food to people, make sure that people have access to healthy and quality health care, including behavior health, and then also dismantling the criminal justice system. When Dr. King was here in 1966, he talked about 3 things: housing, police accountability, and jobs. I mentioned earlier I worked on police accountability, still do. I'm the son of a police officer, but I'm also a black man who's been in Chicago for 51 years. If you've never been called a nigger or a monkey by a police officer, you won't understand why this work is so deeply important to me, all right? And so I will continue to support the district councils and the Community Commission on Public Safety and Accountability. Again, it was a 6-year mission for me to make sure that we had a body that prevented the police from doing the things that they're doing so that we can feel safer in our communities and build a public safety system that we all deserve. When it comes to housing, South Shore area has had more evictions than any other community in the city, right? We struggle in Woodlawn with affordable housing with the upcoming Obama Presidential Center, and in South Shore, folks are concerned about displacement and losing their homes. Rents have gone up in Woodlawn as much as 42% in some cases, and I don't know too many people here that could afford an increase like that. So I support making sure that we have affordable housing in our communities. Also support making sure that people are able to stay in their houses, right? We have senior citizens who live throughout South Shore and Woodlawn who are struggling to maintain their properties and are dealing with code violations and those sorts of things. We need to make sure that we're shoring up our communities, because unfortunately I'm from, I call it the Cosby Kid generation, where my parents said, go away to college and don't come back. I have 4 brothers who all live outside of the city of Chicago. None of them came back home. And so this is a city that's really important to me, that is near and dear to my heart. And the last issue, jobs. They say nothing stops a bullet like a job, right? But we have to prepare people for jobs. So I see a couple things. One, start preparing our kids for the future. Not at 16, not at 18, but let's grab the 12s, let's grab the 10s and show them that they can be pastors or city council members or attorneys, and then prepare them for those opportunities, right? I believe in a living wage that's not $15 an hour, right? It's not enough to live on that. I support a $25 an hour minimum wage because the price of eggs is $4, right? And 4 months ago, you can get eggs for $2. So tell me something ain't wrong with this situation, right? And also believe in making sure that we are supporting entrepreneurs. My first job was for a black man in Hyde Park. My second job was for a black man in Hyde Park. And so I know that, oftentimes we don't get the opportunity, we don't get the chance. And so Target's not hiring from our communities, right? But I know that Garland Cox at Hyde Park Video Movie Center did. right? Johnny Brown on 87th Street hired my brothers out of high school to work in his shop. And so capitalizing small businesses, particularly black businesses, so that they can not only scale up, but also staff up. Those are 3 things that we'll work on day 1.
Thank you, thank you. Hey, can we send the mic this way? I want to ask a question starting with you. Could you send the mic this way? Thank you. Because I want to open up in a minute to questions to the audience. I'm sure they want to ask y'all some questions. Are you running for alderman? I'm sorry. District council. Would you send that mic down there? I apologize, sister. You real quiet. You got to holler, like, say something in here. You know how we is?
Oh, one of the things I wanted to say is piggyback off what she said is that be yourself. So I'm not a politician. I'm not trying to be. I am a community person. I'm a community server. That's what I keep saying. I'm running for district council on the 12th. There's 5 other candidates running, 4 men, 2 women. I'm the only black. My community is changing. Within, I would say, maybe 6 blocks. In the last 2 years, there's high-rises, condos going up with about 200 units each. So my community is changing. Like I said, I've lived there all my life. That's 56 years, I'm not ashamed to say. But I have to be the person at that table to voice my people's concerns. If I'm not there, nobody's going to hear the concerns of my people. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you. And I do want to apologize for not sending the mic down there. But we need to send that mic this way now because we do want it. Because I have another. In fact, I take it, send that mic back to her. You can. I want you to start with this question because I think it actually, you just hit on, I know, what does, and I'm telling you, I like technology, y'all. This is the question. What does speaking truth to power looks like to you?
Just what I said. Speaking truth to power is speaking my people's concerns. The people in my community, the concerns that they have. That's what I'm bringing to the table.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. It's coming this way. Now, let's start on that end.
The same thing, adding what my sister said here, but also making sure that all of the people are standing behind me or alongside of me so that the truth that they hear is coming from the community.
Thank you.
For me, you know, I'm somewhat in the same age group as Anthony over there, millennials, you know, and one of the big things I've really tried to push for is youth voter registration, youth voter participation. And one of the major reasons that's something I've really pushed hard for is because it's time for us to change the culture of politics. It's time for us to start realizing all these concerns that we have, we also have to understand we got people that's been in these seats for longer than I've been alive. So if we that mad, we ain't been mad enough, okay? Because how can these people continuously keep getting elected if we so upset? So at the end of the day, we need to change our relationship with politics where it's like, we cool, you know what I'm saying? I'll go to your event, but at the end of the day, I will fire your behind. You hear me? I will fire you. Like we need to start to have that kind of tenacity as a community. Like, I'm not here to be your bosom buddy for life. I'm here to make sure you do your job, your good paying job that come with benefits better than most of the community got. And so that you do what's right. And we need to start to use that power. And the young people have that kind of tenacity, but we got to get involved, y'all. We got to actually start voting, yo. So when we threaten them, our threats got teeth. That's what we got to do.
All right.
Hard act to follow, but I'm going to try. For me, speaking truth to power is, you know, being able to be honest and say power has failed us, right? You know, to Erica's point, we've got elected officials who have lived, I'm 51, a good chunk of my lifetime in office, and yet when I drive through Woodlawn, Inglewood, South Shore, Roseland, Gale Gardens, Austin, North Lawndale, the list goes on and on. We're represented by black folks who have failed us, right? We also are diehard members of the Democratic Party who fails to listen to us. They hear our pain, but they don't feel it, right? And so speaking truth to power means being able to say, you have failed us, and we are going to replace you, right? We have elections. Elections have consequences. But again, to Erica's point, this sister, can't tell, she is dynamic and has earned every accolade, right? But it's youth, right? I had a conversation with some folks yesterday. In the 5th Ward, the majority of people who vote, around 13,000 people voted in the last 2 elections. 80% are over 50, and 80% of those are over 60, right? But the South Shore community has more young people than senior citizens, right? Than Gen X and then boomers, right? And so we need to involve them, but not in a way that is patronizing, but is real, right? And we have to go and get them and show them that the system can work if you work it, right? We have to prove to them that we are with them, and then also listen to their ideas and let them tell us what it is. We've done this with police accountability, right? I talked to formerly incarcerated people. Nasir Blackwell was on my team, right? Was a brother who spent over 30 years on death row for crimes he committed, right? But came home to a neighborhood that was much like the neighborhood that he left, right? And so he's out here talking to young people as a 50-something, saying, no, you don't want to go inside, because I've been there, right? Let's make sure we're making the space, giving them options, and also listening to their solutions, because I believe the people who are involved in the solution will do the work to make it come true. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just real briefly, truth to power. One, I think you have to have the grit and the courage when your voice is quaking and it's something that maybe you don't want to say or you're afraid to say. I think at the mandate of the people, you have to be able to go for it even if your voice is quaking. Number 3, I think that you have to go inside from the outside in. Whether it's different physical ability, different economic background, sexual orientation or identification, and even to this extent, ageism now in this culture with a hyper focus on the youth. I think all decision-making tables have to be integrated. It should look a lot like we look in this room. You know, if you're making a decision and everybody in there looks like you, I question the validity of the decision, particularly when it relates to our city resources. And then finally, I think when we think about Dr. King, we need to be able to not think all the new ideas and new plans are what we need. Reverend Waltrina started us with a libation in which she invited us to call on the names of the ancestors, even our own ancestors. And so as we sit here and talk about what might work for us for the future, I think it's incumbent upon us to look to the past. Huey P. Newton and the Black Panthers, even Fred Hampton here in this city, were talking about some of the very same things that we're talking about right now. Some of those things worked, some of those didn't. We have to dust off what our ancestors have left for us and see if there's something there that might help us in this predicament, because isn't this a predicament that we find ourselves in 2023? This is real life, and we need real leadership, and I hope to be a part of that.
Thank you.
Speaking truth to power, in my opinion, is simply this: owning the now, but working and fighting like hell for a better later. And I think what happens is, in the now moment, there's a denial, there's a lack of accountability, there's a shutting out. For example, right now in Chicago, we got a water crisis just as dangerous as Flint. Kids are going in public schools to schools that got lead poisoning in it. That's the now. Why haven't we fought like hell to make it better later, right? How many cops have shot, killed, or done wrong innocent people? That's the now. But you fight for later. And the crazy thing about faith and works is sometimes you don't see the later. Dr. King fought for the now. He never saw later. And so the problem that we have right now is that we are in denial of what's going on now. Political interests, political parties, racial injustice, all of it we deny sometimes. But then the reality is that's the reason why we don't have a better later. We are still dealing with issues we dealt with 50 to 60 years ago right now. And so if we want a better tomorrow, we have to start owning today. That's what it means, in my opinion, to speak truth to power. Own the now and shape later. Thank you.
Thank you.
When it comes to speaking truth to power, that's what I do. And an example of that, I spent 20 years as a financial executive, as in the mortgage and the insurance industry. I helped to spearhead, I brought lawsuits, class action lawsuits against Bank of America, IndyMac, Countrywide for predatory lending and institutional racism and redlining. And they were stealing our homes, and we won that fight to the tune of $400 million. As the executive director at the Tree of Life Justice League, I have spearheaded over close to $30 million in lawsuits against municipalities across the country for wrongful death. But the most, our dear brother Frederick Douglass once said, power concedes nothing without a demand. But that is not the most gut-wrenching part of it all. As a black man here in Chicago, we have a black mayor, we have a black chief judge, we have a black Cook County Board president, we got a black attorney general, and despite all of this blackness with people that look like me that are in power, why is my people still suffering? Now, you know, my foot is in both of these. Like I said, I spent 20 years. Like, when it comes to endorsements, I happen in the 6th district. I'm endorsed by State Rep. LaShawn Ford, Congressman Danny Davis, Congressman Jonathan Jackson. I'm endorsed by Father Flager. I'm endorsed by Alderman Pat Dowd. I'm endorsed by Alderman State Rep. Willie Preston, David Moore, and the list goes on and on. So I say that to say is that I've been up in these people's faces about justice. I'm in a unique position because my feet are in both arenas. I have this weird sort of street credit. You know, when the kids see me on TV about police accountability, and when I go into these neighborhoods, into these dark alleys, they say, don't mess with that guy. That's the guy that we're gonna need to call if the police play us bogus. When I go to the gas station and I see a bunch of kids, I speak to them. I give them, you know, like an OG. You saw me. I spoke to you and I looked at you directly and I made them acknowledge me and I acknowledged them. And I say that to say, y'all have heard me talk a lot about police, and I am not anti-cop. I'm just anti-bad cop. And I have a relationship. When it comes to the gun violence, I am against feeding the industrial prison complex with our children. Enough of that. I'm not gonna community blame and victim shame our children, because you cannot tell our kids to put down their guns and then don't give them another something else to pick up. And I'll say this, I'm not totally convinced that all of the killing that's going on in our community is being done by people that look like us.
Hey, I'm gonna ask you, thank you, this is powerful. Thank you, brother.
Hey everyone, speaking truth to power by doing the work, by action. You have to build community. And when I said that earlier, you have to build coalitions with organizations to service the people in the community. You also have to get people involved who've never been a part of this process. I've gotten so many people involved who don't care about politics, don't care about government, who haven't voted in about 3 terms, involved in this process and listening to them and pushing for their questions and their ideas of what this office can look like. Earlier, you got me riled up, and I'm still riled up, Renato, just energy high, because people have asked me, what power can the local police district council have? And to be honest, I get a little flustered and frustrated because it's like, it's not about the local police district council. It's not about what power I have. It's about the community power. And if you attach to the community, if you're working with the community, we got a lot of power. And we need to understand that when we're running for office, that the community has a lot of power. Like Dion said before, of like pushing legislation, pushing policies. I may not be running for alderman, but I damn sure that I will be pushing legislation to our alder people that covers our district, because our community needs it. And I've told people, I I know we have a lot of black public officials in Illinois and specifically Chicago, but I've told people there's no compromise for my community. Whatever my community needs, we need to push that. I don't care how crazy it may sound. I don't care how awkward you all may feel. If our community need resources, services, and want a better future, then I'm pushing for that. And compromising means that I'm falling back and losing people in my community if I fall back on that. So,
Thank you, brother.
Speaking truth to power, hope y'all don't mind, I'm gonna get a little metaphysical with that, because it's like the phrase itself, speaking truth to power, if you put yourself in the position of the speaker, you speaking truth to power. Power is something outside of yourself, right? If you speak in truth to power. And the reason I'm sitting at this table is the result of the work of people who recognize the power within themselves, right? They saw the power within themselves, and they organized, and they strategized, you know, and they went out and they fought and they protested, and they did what they had to do to get this ordinance, you know, passed. And that was about recognizing the power within themselves, not about looking outside of themselves for this power. It's about the work that's necessary to access your own power and to utilize it and to use it. And so it's like a challenge every day, you know, for me when I get up to do what I need to do to achieve the goals that I'm trying to do. And I'd ask you, you know, to look at that phrase like that. Like, don't think about, like, you know, power outside of yourself and asking somebody for something, because you can't ask nobody for power. Don't nobody give you power, you know. You got power, and you got to manifest it. You got to draw it up, and you got to manifest it. You got to work with it, and you got to do it. And in my role, you know, as a district council member, I'm going to be asking you for your power, you know, to do some things, you know, to meet with me, to organize with me, you know. We're going to be asking you for that. And I may ask you today before we even leave here, you know, because I may need some help, you know, doing some things, just getting the word out to get people to vote, right? And we need your power for that, and I need my power. So it's not, think about it like that when you hear that phrase, speaking truth to power. Speak to yourself every day, every quiet moment you have. Speak to the power within yourself to pull it up, to help you do what you need to do.
Thank you.
For me, speaking truth to power means being genuine to who I am and my values and to my vision of uplifting my community, right? Just making sure I stay true to that. If you ever work with me, if you spend a lot of time with me, you'll hear me use a phrase a lot, like I can't rock with certain things, right? And one of the things in this political process I've learned is certain people I can't rock with, right? And unfortunately, I think, and Desmond asked me this earlier. He was like, how are you doing? And one of the first things that came to mind is like, man, these conversations, when you got to let people who are in office right now know I can't rock with you. It's not disrespectful. And if you are here after February, we going to work together, but we obviously have very different views of what this community looks like. So to me, part of it is making sure that I'm staying true to that, to myself, not losing myself in this game, and also staying true to what my community needs and what Inglewood needs. Right now, a great example, there's a lot of consternation in Inglewood about the changing demographics, and that comes up every day. Every day I hear someone go blank, 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 Mexican, blank, 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 blank. And I say, I'll be honest with you. I said, your problem is not this new neighbor. The problem was when 30,000 people suddenly exoded out of the neighborhood over 10 years. And then this person came in and moved in as, you know, we have to embrace. Like, I'm not here for division. You know, if that's what you're for, maybe I'm not the person you should be picking anyway. I'll be the first one to tell you. I'm about black and brown unity across the board. All people are my people. So, those, you know, I can rock with people who are doing the right thing. And, you know, so for me, speaking truth to power is about being genuine, being honest, and keeping the vision. Like, we need to uplift our community in a multitude of ways. But, you know, yeah, so,
all right.
So I was like, there's just so many things, but like, our enemy is not not brown people coming into the community. Our enemy is downtown who have not invested in our community in God knows how many years. And I'm not going to lose that sight of that. And I let people know all the time. And also some of the elected officials in the community who haven't done anything. You know, and that's real. And I tell people all the time, that person I can't rock with. I work with them, but I'm going to let you know right now, we are so opposite, it's not even right. And so for me, speaking truth to power is staying to those values all the time. And if I ever lose myself in this process, I'm going to quit because that's just not going to be me.
All right, thank you. We definitely want to open this up to questions. And I would say, I'm going to definitely pass the mic out to the audience, but I would just really want to cap that, speaking truth to power. My name is Ronaldo Hudson. I am the person that was responsible for the death of a man. And I decided that I was responsible for the act, but I wasn't the act. That's speaking truth to power. And so I said to myself, I'm going to be better than a decision that I made. And I began to work to manifest what I believe was the greater of me, the best of me. And that's what you get to see today. So I'm a brother that went to prison illiterate and came out with a Bachelor of Divinity. And so what I'm saying is that regardless of what people think of anyone, to be clear, right, there's miracles among us. But I want the audience, I really want you all, thank you for your patience. I realize I was the one allowing stuff just to go on, but I really want to say to you all, we want to hear from you. So where do we want to start? I'm sorry. Come on. Will someone, can I get some help? We got all these orange shirts. Oh, I'm sorry. Please, thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mama. I do want to take a moment to say to all the mothers in here and the grandmothers, I love y'all. Like y'all was the ones praying like when the brothers stopped praying for us. And I remember that. I do. Karan, you need one of these mics? Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm blocking you, man. Somebody might want to take your picture, like.
Who's our first question?
Where's the first question?
You ready? No, come on.
Yeah, hand him the mic. Yeah, hand her that mic.
Of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle McGee. I am a longtime resident of Chicago. I live in West Chatham. I used to be in the 21st Ward. Now we're in the 6th Ward. What I am concerned about is, and this is mostly for the district council people and my candidates for alderman that's going to be in the 6th Ward. People 40 and under, and I'm making a general statement, are not engaged. What are you going to do concretely to get those people engaged? Because I have a 27-year-old, and he sees me, his dad, he sees us, but there's some people who see nobody. How are we going to get them engaged? Because it's not about just voting, it's about accountability. And anybody who knows me, whoever's elected, I'm going to be on you like you owe me money, and I want my money.
Amen. Come on. Pass that mic to somebody that ain't scared.
I agree that is a big challenge, specifically getting young people engaged. As a district council, the member person, we are required to hold at least one monthly meeting. I remember answering a questionnaire, and they asked a similar question. I just think about myself, my own block club, right? I'm not that active in my block club as I used to be. My block club in general is not as active as it used to be. What I definitely see in all these meetings is it's like just difference, you know, in the age groups, right? The older people are a lot more involved than the younger people, specifically like between 18 and 30, 35. And so I think we would have to hold I've considered even holding separate meetings specifically for young people, right? Tailored to young people. When I say tailored to them, I don't know, having, I guess, things that I think will more so attract them. If it be bringing in a favorite, music or DJ or something like that. It would be things like that on my part.
I was just going to ask right quick, could you write down the community and the address, and maybe we can see if we can get some community organizations or we go over there ourselves. So I'm not running in your neighborhood, but I just wanted to ask that so to make sure that we're responding to that.
No, I share, David and I will both be sixth district police council members. We pride ourselves on being bridge builders, but there's no sense in building a bridge if we don't have anybody to cross the bridge. So when it comes to engaging the community, I take my hat off to, for instance, to Father Flager and the work that Larry Daniels is doing over at St. Sabina Church, which is in the heart of the Auburn Gresham community with the athletic programs. I speak to an awful lot of our young people, and we think that our restorative justice program, that David and I will partner for the 6th district, because there are so many things along the line is that we need to engage. There are families who have lost loved ones to gun violence, but the lead detectives have not provided these families with any answers. So we want to open up the line of communication and now let our neighbors know that there is a real pathway to communicate with the police in order to get some answers. And I think some of our restorative justice programs will help ignite our neighbors and our community in the 6th.
So just to answer the question real quick, I'm in the 7th district, so I'm not in your district, but I think the reality is this: the kids spend more time in school than anywhere else during the week. So one of the things we'll have to do is engage with those schools. For example, in the 7th district, I have a great relationship with Principal Ivy Jackson at Henderson. I've done lots of things at Henderson. I've already asked her. She's very receptive, and that's something we're just going to have to do. Make sure we're engaging, like in the schools, engaging with the principals, making sure we're sharing information, marketing that looks good and is youth-centered, and also, as David kind of pointed out, great having activities where we can get the youth out, engage with them in other ways, whether it's at MLK or other event spaces that we have in our communities to actually have some music. Talk about politics. We have to get to a point where talking to youth about politics is something that they want to engage, they want to do, right? Some of us don't think politics is the coolest thing ourselves, but we have to figure out a way to get them engaged so they become empowered at 12, 11, 10. So when they're 16, 17, and then they hit 21, they're ready to run for office. I would love to see a 21-year-old up here going, I'm running for the district council. And we need to make that happen. That's going to, one of those things we have to make happen next cycle. So making sure we hit them at the school specifically is something we'll definitely have to do.
I think I read somewhere in the book that says, go ye. And the interesting thing about this whole process of getting elected is very disparaging, is very sad. Candidates go to spots that they only see once every 4 years. Seniors that live in buildings can't get up and go to the alderman's office, right? So how do you have an aldermanic meeting with people who don't have access to the office? I think it's very interesting when we need something to get elected, we make ourselves available. Then when the official gets elected, you can't find them. So therefore, I believe that one of the things that I would do is I would have my meetings in the same places I got signatures. Number one, senior buildings. Y'all can clap, that's cool. Number two, when it comes to young people, Willie Barrow said it like this: we're not so much divided as we are disconnected. There's a whole generation that's turned off about politics because it's turned into politricks. And so at the end of the day, transparency is honesty. So why can't we make ourselves as elected officials transparent to that demographic that won't come to the office, that won't come to a neighborhood summit, but will watch everything you do on the phone? And so I think that community forums and conversations in the language, in the mediums that those under 30 use must be a priority. Now I'm 38 years old and I got the help of 1, 2, I don't even know how, I'm getting better at these things. But the last thing I think also is, post-COVID, let's be clear, right? We got masks on in here. Everybody has a different perspective on how to engage space, right? And I think that we got to be careful because when we look at modernity, all of these new things that are modern, that's a fancy word, modernity, but I gave you the definition on the backside. Modernity is also dangerous because not everybody can afford to keep up. Let's have a meeting on Zoom. How many people in the ward actually have a phone that has enough data to watch a Zoom? Or Zoom is free for an hour. After that, you get kicked off. So we have to figure out how to balance the modern stuff with the people who cannot afford it. So I think office hours are key, and they must be kept. If an alderman ain't in his office when they say they're supposed to be there for community engagement conversations, again, that should be something that's remembered, and the voters are the alderman's supervisor. And if a supervisor don't see his worker or her worker working, the supervisor will fire them. So there are 54,000 people that will possibly be my supervisor. So at the end of the day, if they do not see me keeping the hours that I say I will be in the office for conversation, then I should get fired. If young people don't feel connected to me in a transparent, honest way through the mediums that make sense to them, then I should be fired. And if seniors do not have access to me because I'm going to them, and also let's be clear, the community organizations, block clubs meet at least once a month. There are enough block clubs in this 6th ward that in the span of 3 months, I would have covered the whole ward.
In the interest of time.
In the interest of time, that's my final answer.
So in fact, we have a number of questions. So what I can do is let's start with you on this question. And the question is, how in the role, in the work that you're doing, how will you bring resources to our community? We need housing and jobs for our people because our kids are on the streets. Let's start here, then Desmond, and then I'm going to move to a next question. Is that all right? We got 8 minutes. I'm going to do this with precision. Go ahead.
Absolutely, thank you. Well, I'm not currently running for anything, so I'm not really here to make promises. I'm only here to talk about the promises that we need to keep to ourselves and for ourselves and what we can do to make that happen. And my work as an organizer is bringing those resources, connecting people to resources, making sure they have what they need. But I just really want to touch on something that just
30 seconds.
Needs to be said, y'all. Our youth in the city of Chicago are able to organize 14,000 people downtown at the drop of a hat. Our youth in the city of Chicago are the best organizers in this city. There ain't a person sitting on this panel that's a better organizer than them young people when they decide to organize. So it's time for us to tap into that power. We do not know better. They obviously know something that we don't. And rather than arresting them and dragging them in the streets, maybe we should ask them, how the heck did you get all these people to show up at one time when almost none of us can do that?
I love it. I love it.
All right.
Let me ask you this question as you get the mic. Access to nature and quality of life is interconnected. Older people, how will you advocate for better quality local parks and encouraging community to become involved?
I love it.
We have 8 minutes.
8 minutes.
Give me a minute.
8 minutes? No, I'm kidding. All right, so
we have 8 minutes. You have 1.
Yeah, so Fifth Ward has some of the most beautiful green space in the city. We've got the Promontory Point, South Shore Cultural Center, 2 of my favorite places. I'm a photographer that I love to shoot. However, the Obama Presidential Center has come and it's torn down. It will be tearing down 2,100 trees in Jackson Park, right? There are already community organizations such as Save Jackson Park and Save the Point who are active in bringing people together to maintain and support these important resources, and I support their work and will be driving people to them.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. The Fifth Ward is a lovely ward, and I echo that the Promontory Point, also the trees in Jackson Park are beautiful places. I think that Chicago does a great job of honoring our parks. So I will continue that heritage with the Chicago Park District, partnering with them effectively. Also organizations like Save Jackson Park. I think we've heard a lot about listening to folks who are already on the ground, already doing the work, especially when it comes to environment. So I would partner effectively with those organizations and government agencies to make sure we preserve our lovely parks.
30 seconds.
It's real simple. We got the Bulls and the White Sox. Ryan's Resort's own too. We got the Blackhawks. We got all of these major sports. Make them put a percentage of their revenue in a trust to not just do these little baseball diamonds, but to fund leagues, fund staff, manicure the parks, and make sure that we bring activities back to the parks so that kids can be kids in the neighborhoods, funded by the sports franchises that we fund in their beautiful parks.
All right, let me ask you the final question for district council folks. We have 3 minutes left, and we're going to end on time. Watch me do this. With all love and respect to those who fought for the council's existence, it is focused on police behavior after the fact. Can you share how you would fight to redirect funding out of CPD and to real programs that serve Black communities?
We want to move it over. Let her answer. I'm sorry.
What are we doing?
Give me 1 second. I want to, because we haven't heard.
So, to the district council candidates, with all love and respect to those who fought for the council's existence, it does seem to focus on police behavior after the fact. Can you share how you would fight to redirect funding out of CPD and to real programs that serve Black communities?
Yes, I would reallocate funding for restorative justice.
Nice.
Back in the communities, in the schools, and churches, and things of those sorts, to do peace circles.
All right, district council candidates.
So I'm also a district council candidate.
Nice.
So
let's just go.
One of the ways that we're already doing that is engaging in the reparations conversations around cannabis, and also making sure that as we're talking about police accountability, we are talking about moving resources from the police budget into the community to invest in the well-being of the community. Now, whether I win or not, we're already doing that work.
Here we go. District council, 30 seconds. You got to use the mic, brother. Thank you.
You know, there is a phrase that we hear often, defund the police. I do support I just think that that is a bad choice of words as it relates to a description or something. Because, you know, as a property owner, you know, if something happens to me, yeah, I want to call the police. But the problem that I believe in is that we certainly support reallocation of funds, because a lot of the violence that takes place in our neighborhood is a result of mental illness. I think some of the money should be taken from the police and put back into the social services. You talked about the green space. Rahm Emanuel, he took down all of the basketball rims in our parks because he accused all of our kids of coming to the park and being drug dealers. Right. And so there are a lot of things that we can do. I am a big supporter of reallocating funds and, for lack of a better word, defunding the police.
Hey,
30 seconds.
Could I really jump in really quickly? Because I do think it's important that we remember that, and I keep centering this because I represent those that oftentimes get pushed out the room, you guilty. And I just want to just really make sure
20 seconds.
that we lift it. I promise I'm going to make it less than that, right? Please remember that we have a duty to not just protect those things that have been protected. So, like, young people came up with that term, defund, and so I want to respect their voices. And I just want to lift that up because sometimes we forget that power. So I just want to turn it back over. That's all I want to make that point, because oftentimes young people are dismissed as not understanding what need to be heard, but that's their language, this is their time, let's give it to them.
30 seconds.
Yes, my name is Anthony Bryan. I am in full support of reallocating funds. We have too many abandoned schools, too many abandoned mental health clinics. We need to come up with proposals and programs to move centers, organizations that don't have brick and mortars into those buildings. Right now, I live in the 20th ward. We're planning, the city is planning to move immigrants into a school. In the 20th ward, we've been asking for displaced mental health people to have resources for that place. That's what we need to do, and that's how we need to defund. Well, yeah, that's how we need to defund the police.
30
Let's go
seconds,
ahead
brother,
and say
before
it.
we're almost wrapped up. Thank you so much for your patience. Don't leave. We have a number of very important announcements. Yes.
I would just echo the expression by my colleague at the other end who spoke about restorative justice programs. Part of my platform, which is adapted from the ECPS platform, is to expand restorative justice programs and practices in our councils, in the wards in which we are. And so demanding money to expand those programs will be something that I will be doing right away.
We're going to have some refreshments after. We can probably dig into the meaning of that because we're out of time. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to bring us home.
My response to this is always the same. The police budget has ballooned over the years. Has it ballooned to proportionality to decreases in crime? Absolutely not. So what am I getting for my money? What is the bang for the buck? There is no bang for the buck right now. So I'm full support, defunding, reallocating, however you want to look at it. This, as I've said before, this is a perfect opportunity. Part of that opportunity is to refocus the police from a reactionary, oppressive force to a proactive community partner. And part of that is going to be taking some of that money and putting it into the root causes of violence and public safety problems in our community.
All right, I'm going to start with you. Here's what we're going to do. We want to hear one last time your name and what you're running for so that folks can leave informed in 1 minute. Start here.
Deon McGill. I'm running for the 7th Police District Council, which encompasses all of Inglewood. If you're from Inglewood, know people in Inglewood, just talk to me after.
David Boykin, 6th District Police Council.
Hey, my name is Anthony Bryan. I'm running for the 3rd Police District Council. I want to bring community together at the decision-making table.
Eric Russell, I'm running for 6th District Police Council, which is encompass Brainerd Park, Auburn Gresham, and West Chatham.
My name is William Hall. I'm running to be the alderman of the 6th Ward where you sitting down there.
Renita Q. Ward, running for the 5th Ward alderperson. That's Hyde Park, South Shore, Grand Crossing. Thank you for being engaged today. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you. Desmond Yancey, running for the 5th Ward, from the ward, for the ward.
Erica Nanton, running for nothing but justice and freedom for my people. I'm a community organizer for St. Sabina.
Marilyn Pagan Banks, running for the 24th District Council, because it is my duty to fight for our freedom, and it is our duty to win.
Michelle Page, running for the 12th District Police Council, and what drives me is my love for my son.
And my name is Ronaldo Hudson, and I'm running to ensure that hope is a human right, not something that's out of sight.
Nice. Can we put our hands together? Before you go, yes, stand up. This was a beautiful, Ronaldo, thank you for facilitating us through a lively and meaningful conversation. Folks running for office, thank you for your commitment and your clarity and your vision. Before we go, I want to do a number of things. So on the 29th of, did we enjoy this? On the 29th of January, we will be partnering with Trinity United Church of Christ to bring you a mayoral conversation in the same spirit of this. We will send you, if you signed up for this event, we'll send you information, but it is January 29th at Trinity United Church of Christ, starting at 1:30 p.m. That's the first thing. Then we want to acknowledge the folks who've been watching online, and they sent us some commentary. I want to just give me 30 more seconds, maybe 45. So there's 7 commissioners, not 14 was a correction that we got. And we're also hoping that we can encourage the audience to come in on January 26th at 6:30 p.m. at Olive Harvey College. There are major issues coming up that night around police accountability. Please help spread the word. We are also, yes, so January 26th, 6:30 p.m., Olive Harvey College. There's a community meeting we are encouraged to attend. Are there members of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated in the room? Yes. So we want to say thank you for your service. Happy anniversary, Zetaversary. And then this was brought to you by Community Renewal Society. Yes, yes. Our team worked really hard, but here's the thing, as the organizer said, we are about building power. And so we want to invite you not just to be part of this conversation, but to join our work, join our issue team, our police accountability team, our LGBTQIA plus liberation team, our reentry team, our healing justice team, our theological framing work, right? You are invited, communityrenewalsociety.org. Visit us, join us, help us build power for our community and for our collective liberation. And then join us in the room right to your right for some refreshments and further conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you, CRS team, Wave. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Dr. Middleton. This was good. Let's get some refreshments.